Hey guys, it's Katya and happy Monday evening. It is 6:51 Pacific time. Today I'm going to be talking about how to communicate your needs and desires to the women you're dating. So that's what this video is going to be about, and I'm just seeing if everything's okay. Hey Rick, what's happening? Thanks for watching. So this video was inspired because recently I've had a client, and then I had a gentleman who attended my workshop last week ask me some really profound questions, and so I wanted to talk about that. You know, this particular gentleman was interested in dating multiple women, and he was curious about when he would communicate that piece of information to the women that he's dating. So I'm going to answer that question later in the video. And again, if you're just jumping on, this video is about how to communicate your needs and desires to the women that you're dating. So thanks again for watching. Hey Chris, what's happening? Thanks for being here. All right, so let's get into it. So why is it important to communicate your needs and your desires to the women that you're dating? Well, it's so interesting. I think that men today have been kind of trained out of this. Like, men are not supposed to have needs, or they're not supposed to have desires. Like, it's this really weird thing. And that somehow you guys can't communicate what you need to the women that you're dating or the people that you're in a relationship in. And that is so not true. It's really important to communicate what you need and what you desire so that women can meet you on the same page. When you communicate these things, you're letting people know where you're at. You're letting people know what to expect from you. You're letting people know kind of what you need out of a relationship, or out of whether it's short-term or long-term. And you're also communicating what other people can expect from you. And it gives women a better sense of who you are, what you're made of. And it also shows, it's a way to see if you're compatible with one another. Michael says, what if your needs scare that person away? Okay, got it. Well, let's, one, can you expand on that for me just a little bit? Like, can you maybe tell me a little bit more about what the need was, or what you communicated? If you're comfortable with that, that would be awesome, so I can help you a little bit better. And we'll get into that in just a second as well. So thank you so much for that wonderful question. And the other reason it's important to communicate is that it lets a woman know that you know how to communicate. So one of the things that I keep hearing over and over again from the high quality women that you guys are after is, I want a man who communicates. I want a man who communicates. And this is coming from these intelligent, beautiful, and successful women that you are going after. Is they all want a man who can communicate with them. So when you know how to communicate what you want, it also shows that you are a high value man. So let's get into the 3 tips that I'm going to give you on how to communicate what you need and want. And again, if you're just jumping on, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So the first thing that you want to do is, oftentimes people are actually disconnected from what it is that they want and what it is that they need. We don't think about that often, especially if you're someone who is really giving to others, if you're really about adding value to other people, contributing beyond yourself. Oftentimes your own needs are overlooked. So it's important to get in touch with what it is that you need. And I have some questions that you can actually write down that I'm going to share with you right now on how you can start to tap into what you need and what you want. So the first question is, so basically the first tip that I'm giving you is, do a brain dump of the things that are really important to you. So the first question is, what do you want in a relationship, right? ask yourself that question. What do you really want in a relationship? What do you want in the short term, and what do you want in the long term? Right? Like, what are your expectations of a short-term relationship, and what are your expectations to building to a long-term relationship? What do you want in the bedroom? This is a great question that people typically don't ask themselves, and this is like a very sensitive area to breach in a relationship. But it's also a really, really important question, because many people are not satisfied sexually in their relationships because they don't actually go and try to discover what the other person wants, or actually communicate what it is that they want. So what do you want in the bedroom? What are your standards for living and relating, right? Like, what are your standards out in the world? So how do you expect someone to be when you go to a restaurant, right? Or when you go on vacation together? What are your standards for relating, right? Like, how much do you want someone to communicate? How much do you want to text? How much do you not want to text, right? What are your standards for living and relating? And again, if you're just joining us, I'm just going over the first tip that I'm giving you on how you can communicate what you need and want. And we're talking about doing a brain dump of the things that are really important to you. So when I say a brain dump, I mean not with another person. Let me just clarify this. This is for you. So this is about you writing down these things and clarifying them for yourself before you go and communicate these things to another person. So right now we're in the let's get clarity about what we want and what we need, and then we can go and communicate it to someone else. Okay? So the next question to ask yourself is, what are the things that have worked for you in the past in relationships? And what hasn't worked for you in the past in relationships and dating? These things will help you clarify how to communicate your needs and desires in your current relationship, or in your current dating scenario. Yeah? Hey, I don't know how to say your name, but let's try this. Samadan. Hi, thanks for the thumbs up. Hey, David, thanks for watching. And the final question to ask yourself is, what values are really important to you? And again, we're just writing things down. This is like a brain dump of the things that are important to you. And there's many more questions that you can ask yourself, but I think these are a good place to start. Okay, so that's the first step. And the second step is be direct. So once you've gathered your thoughts, start practicing communication. And this is where people get stuck, because they think that they have to communicate something perfectly, and you don't. If you always are trying to communicate something in the perfect way, you're never going to communicate. You're never going to talk about what it is that's important to you, because you're always trying to get it right. And I've worked with clients who have been in marriages for 20 years, and it's literally been years since they've brought up something that's really important to them. So I want you to consider that communication is imperfect. You might start to communicate something that's a little bit strange for you, or a little bit sensitive or vulnerable, and it might land flat, right? That person might not receive it. So just start by being direct. Start practicing communication. And so now let me talk to you a little bit about this example that I got last week. So there was a guy in my workshop, and he was talking about how, he was interested in dating multiple women, and he was, I think, dating multiple women, or starting to, and he wanted to know, when is an appropriate time to actually communicate, hey, by the way, I'm dating other people, or I'm dating multiple people at the same time, and this is really what I want. And he was really struggling with this question, because he didn't really know how to approach it. And so I told him to be direct. There's really not a right time for you to go and tell someone this information. But as soon as, a good way to find out when it is the right time is if it keeps bubbling up, like the question or the thing that you want to say keeps bubbling up over and over and over again. That will kind of clue you in as to if it's a good time. And because what that means is that there's something going on internally for you. You're coming up against a layer of your own integrity. You're coming up against your value system. And that's why you want to say this. You want to say this out loud and let it be known. So be direct. There's really no way around telling a woman that you want to date multiple people. I mean, there's no other way to say it except for that. So just, what he'll probably have to do is he'll start to practice. And there are going to be some women who are, probably not interested in that. But there are many women who are also exploring what they want, trying to figure out what they want, who would probably be okay with that. And the beautiful thing about communicating something like that up front is that it creates integrity inside of that relationship, where then all parties are aware of what's going on and there's no questions. And then going back to your question, Michael, let me see what you said. So you said, so I've expressed being military. It's very difficult on a relationship in general. Loyalty is a big factor on both sides. But when you mentioned that I may be gone for 6+ months deployment and understand that it will be difficult, got it, but I will be loyal. More often than not, the partner backs out because distance is too much. Got it. Thanks, Michael, for this question. I can only imagine what that's like for you. I have a girlfriend right now, and her partner is deployed currently, and I know it's really hard for her. But I do know that many people who deal with the same thing make it work. So my advice to you would be to, if it's happened a few times now that someone was not accepting of the fact that you were going to be deployed for 6 months, then you probably have this reality right now that women can't accept that about you. So it's this fear. It's this fear that you're kind of bringing to the table. And more likely than not, when you bring this to a woman, you have this kind of fear or this insecurity running in the background. And so my advice to you would be to really own who you are as a person and what you bring to the table, and lead with that instead of leading with this, oh, hey, by the way, I might get deployed at any minute kind of thing. If a woman knows the kind of value that you bring to a relationship, if she's clear about that, and if she's confident that you're confident in the relationship, then it will be kind of a no-brainer for her. Now, I'm not saying that there's not going to be challenges. Obviously, a partner leaving for 6 months is something that is a challenge, and it's very real. But I want you to have faith that what you bring to the table is more important and more valuable than the fact that you're going to leave for 6 months every once in a while. And when you lead with that, a woman will pay attention to how you interact with her about that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that resonates with you. Please let me know if that does. So that is that's the answer to that question. So again, we're talking about how to communicate your needs and desires to the women that you're dating. And we're on the second tip, which is be direct. Be direct, be straightforward about what it is that you want. And let me see. So I had another client recently who, he noticed that he moves really fast in relationships. And so relationships in the past have fizzled out for him. Or he's ended up in a relationship that isn't quite the right fit because it kind of moved so hot and heavy in the beginning. And so something that he is practicing and shared a breakthrough with me recently is that, he told a woman that he wanted to slow down, and that is a direct communication about what he wants. And that's going to set himself up for a powerful relationship in his future, because he's communicated what he needs, and he's basically telling this person, look, this is what I need in this relationship. And if you can meet me there, awesome. And if you can't, it's probably not going to work out. So Here's the thing, just this last piece about being direct, because I kind of see a theme here in this conversation, is that, yeah, when you're direct, not everyone is going to be on board with what it is that you have to share. Not everyone's going to be on board and on the same page about what you need and what you want. But the reality is that it doesn't matter. Someone will. Someone who's important to you and someone who sees you as important will accept these things about you if you communicate them in a very congruent way, and if you own who you are, and if you own what you want. Okay? So, and then the last piece is listen. So now that you've been direct, now that you've said, hey, this is what I need or this is what I want, listen, make sure that it landed. I sometimes feel like this is such a, you communicate something that's really sensitive to you and you're like, okay, I'm done, like, let's move on. Give a moment, allow a pause in the conversation so that this person can really receive what you're saying, and make sure that it landed, and listen for what this person is saying back to you. Do they agree? Is there a compromise maybe that's here? Did they see you eye to eye, right? Are you guys on the same page? So the last piece is really listen. Don't jump ahead. Don't skip over after you've just said something that's kind of sensitive or important to you. Allow it to sit there and be with it for a second in the conversation. So, and also how someone responds to you whenever you communicate to them what you need will let you know how you did. Okay, so like I was sharing with Michael's example earlier is, if he's coming to a conversation and he's leading with, hey, by the way, like, I know we're newly dating, but I just want you to know that that I might get deployed at any minute, right? Like, there's a fear and an insecurity that's running in the background for him, and women are going to respond accordingly to that. But if he's coming with, hey, let's get to know each other, here's what I'm about, find out what she's about, and then at some point when it feels like the relationship has reached a certain stage of seriousness, if he let her know congruently, like, hey, this is what my life is like sometimes, and give her the opportunity to respond and be firm in what he's saying, and then it's going to land a lot differently, and he's going to get a very different response. Okay? So let's go over what we just talked about. Let's review. So I talked about why it's important to communicate your needs and wants. It allows a woman to see who you are, to get to know what you need, to get to know your standards for life, to get to know what you want in a relationship, to get to know your expectations. It's important to communicate what you need and want, because you're a human being who has needs and wants, and you want someone who can meet you there and who wants to deliver on those things for you. The second thing that we talked about, the three tips on how to communicate, is first, do a brain dump. If it's a sensitive topic and you don't know how to bring it up yet, great, write about it. Ask yourself these kind of probing questions. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate your feedback. I'm glad that the advice resonated with you. Awesome. So do a brain dump. Write down all the things that are really important to you. And if you already have done this and you just want to approach a specific conversation, then do it before the conversation. Write down what you want to say and keep it private and figure out your thoughts. You can also go and have a conversation with a friend about it. The next thing is be direct. I feel like in today's world with texting and, Messenger and Facebook and all of this social media, we are rarely direct. Like, face-to-face communication goes a long way. So I really encourage you to be direct in what you need and what you want. It will go a long way with the other person. It will communicate confidence and boldness, and that you really know yourself. And it will also allow you to view yourself as you will know yourself as someone who can be direct whenever you practice this. And then the final piece is listen. Once you have communicated, hey John, thanks. Once you have communicated and been direct, then go ahead and listen. What is the feedback that you're getting? The feedback that you're getting from a communication will communicate volumes to you about how you came across in that conversation. So make sure to pay attention to the feedback.